Hello, welcome to the VBAC Prep Masterclass. I'm Joanne Fisher of Conscious Birth and Wellness. So I am a holistic birth consultant, a doula and birth educator, a certified BITOC practitioner, certified infant sleep educator, pre- and postnatal and fertility yoga teacher, exercise specialist and personal trainer with a degree in kinesiology, exercise science, and I'm currently certifying in cognitive behavior therapy. I have training with Spinning Babies, the Association for Pre- and Perinatal Psychology and Health, Conscious Parenting with Dr. Shafali. I've taken courses with Evidence-Based Birth, Indie Birth, Intentional Birth, and Good Birth Co's Trauma Prevention. I'll be taking a new course with them just this next week. And also training in pregnancy loss support with the Institute of Breath, Death, and Birth, Breath, and Death. So I have a lot of information and a large background. I've been working with prenatal clients as a prenatal yoga teacher starting in 2010, and emotional freedom technique even before that as well. So my motto is that pregnancy should be easy, not painful. That when we have discomfort in our body, we have things out of alignment, and things just aren't working for us, that's communication from our body that there's something bigger, deeper going on. So my mission is to give the best start to life possible, and that begins with a mom who is relaxed, available to be attuned and bond, and who is deeply supported, on the assumption that everyone I'm working with today identifies as mom. I know I do work with women who are surrogates and carrying babies for adoption as well. So I know not everyone identifies as mom. But I am going to use that term because it applies to 99% of the population. So with our BITOC, we get to recognize that pain is communication. We get to connect with baby. And I really help you to feel empowered and supported. And BITOC is so effective in helping you and baby be ready for birth that you never go overdue. And I offer a no induction guarantee. And as baby is worked with in the womb directly, they feel loved, supported, connected. That colic is impossible. That colic tends to be trauma and fear, and BITOC supports them so much. It never happens. I also offer a no colic guarantee. And with both of these, if you happen to go overdue or your baby has inconsolable crying, I give you free extra sessions to get to the root of it. So conscious birthing is working to understand the communication of labor and birth, to bring conscious awareness to our underlying stories behind any pain, any challenges, any complications. So with preparation for both baby and the birthing person, it's to be ready, excited, empowered for birth, even if it's a C-section. I always keep in mind the bigger picture of our soul's journey, and that a orgasmic birth isn't in everybody's cards and isn't meant to be. We all have our own personal journey. Which is why I like to start off with Kio's story. Keolani is a client of mine from Guam that I worked with remotely. And I started working with her initially with her older children. Her older one was having a bunch of health problems, allergies, eczema, and her other one was having lots of problems with school and really having problems with his grades. And through that work, I was able to help get the one on the honor roll, and all of the eczema and allergies cleared up for the other. And with the new baby and the new pregnancy, we were able to really help the toddler come into the world, adjust to the new baby coming into the world with ease. And with Kio, she had a previous stillbirth, an induced stillbirth, complications, a emergency C-section, a VBAC with her second that was hard posterior baby, then another emergency C-section with her daughter. And this baby came into the world telling me he was here to give mom the birth she was meant to have. And her doctor was on board with the VBAC, and we prepared her. She was confident and capable, and she went into labor just right at the end of her normal on-call period, but she wouldn't go into active labor. She stayed in light contractions for a full day, and they eased off. She was able to sleep. And the next day, I did check in with some Vitalk, and we got the contractions going again, but she would not go into active labor. And all the work we do is to really help you to trust and connect and know and be with your intuition. And she trusted herself and her intuition. She knows she was having a bit of pain and that something just wasn't right. And so she got checked, and they noticed that her uterus was very thinning and that she was actually at a risk of uterine rupture. And so she made the choice to have another C-section following the fact that she was a VBAC times 2. And she felt empowered, and we worked with baby, talked with baby, and we got him all on board to have the C-section. And it was a nice, easy one for them, and they had an amazing recovery. And the big process is that if this was meant to be our journey, then it is needing to be one in which you still feel confident that you trusted your intuition and that you feel like you were in charge and you made the right choice. And so Keo is someone I've worked with a lot previously and prior to her pregnancy and with her children. And it's just amazing what we're able to do each time we do sessions. And her baby is the easiest. Vitalk babies are universally content and easy. That's why I offer the no colic guarantee, because they're just little dream babies all the time. So with a VBAC, it brings with it often having unsupported care of a uterine rupture, and that Keo had some karmic stuff there that we found as well. We can find unresolved emotions and trauma from the previous birth that play into this birth, that bring about fear and anxiety and the fear of complications, your inability to birth vaginally because you didn't do it before, and feeling uncertain that you could do it now, and just fear of natural birth itself, and anything else that's really showing up. So what is it for you? Lack of trust in self or the system? Many, many different things can come into play here. So for successful VBAC, we have a little 10-step program we're going to go through today. Number 1 is to prepare your mind and to prepare your body to ensure there's proper fetal positioning, because that is the most important thing for a successful birth. Baby's position makes all the difference. And number 3, to work through your previous birth and your own birth into the world, that if you were born by cesarean, you're likely to have a cesarean birth yourself because you're trying to process your own emotions and experiences through it. Our 4th is to release all the fears, limiting beliefs about your ability to birth, tap into your intuition and your inner knowingness. Number 6 is to really connect with and trust your baby's ability, that they know that they need to get into their proper positioning, that they need to rotate. They know where they need to be and they know what to do. We just need to help them along a little bit sometimes. 7 is that you really want an empowered natural birth and know it's yours to have. And for me, this was huge. When I was pregnant with my first, Birth Rhythms here in Saskatoon had opened up, and it was this hub of doulas and birth education. I learned about orgasmic birth, got to watch the documentary and read the book, and I told everyone that I was going to have an orgasmic birth. And I made that happen for myself. I was just in that place of trust and knowingness that that birth experience was mine to have. And in the quiet calm of the morning, in the zone, in that flood of hormones, I was on my hands and knees swaying, and I had a flooding orgasm that made my doulas think my water broke, and things kind of, the energy shifted from there, and I lost my zone, and it got hard from there, but I ended up with a very blissful, easy delivery down the road, and a very easy, fast Vitalk baby with my second, an unassisted free birth. So number 8, to have knowledgeable and consistent support throughout, to have your doula, to have someone who is there as your advocate, who's going to stand up for your choices and know you and know what you want and help you through that. Number 9 is to choose your birth location wisely. So if you can birth at home, that we know that brings the best outcomes for low risk pregnancies. But otherwise to stay home as long as possible to avoid interventions. And well, finally, to be willing to switch care providers or to even go to an unassisted or free birth, as that can be an option as well. We know birth is 80% mental and only 20% physical. That if we're in a state of fear or shock or there's stress going on in our environment and we can't calm ourselves down and we can't feel safe, we're going to have a hard time relaxing and opening. And if we're holding trauma, anger, grief, fear from our previous birth, if we're feeling limited or fearful about what lies ahead, or we're experiencing pushback or stress from our environment, then that tension is going to show up in our body, and it's going to be expressed by the body, and it's going to limit the ability to birth effectively. So Body Talk is mind-body medicine. It's an effective stress reduction therapy. We work to resolve the trauma, including generational trauma. We can get to the root cause of the issue. We can release limiting beliefs and programming. We get to strip away all the old stuck emotions and experiences. And as we work with baby in the womb, we can create better communication within the body, mind, and with baby themselves. So I can help you to heal everything that's going on at a physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual level. So we look at us like a light bulb, and that we've come into this world bright and shining, and then the world starts putting its stuff on us. Its experiences, its trauma, its limitations, its beliefs, all the programming, all the dogma. And it's all like we have all these layers of paint on top of us. And by talk, we're just stripping those layers of paint away. So you know who you are at your core. We can move into this place of individuation, the state of not being divided, to know the light that is you underneath all of it, so that you can be in your place of power and in your truth. So we're going to begin with a few different self-care tools to really help you. And dyad work is one of my favorite things to do. And with VBAC, one of the important things is to step into your power. So just look at me here on the camera and say no to me. Do I look mad? Do I look upset? I give you permission to say no. Say no. Thank you. You're welcome to say no. Thank you. And so you can just pick a person, use your partner, and just get them to hold space for you, to just hear your no. And I do this often with clients that are feeling like, one of the most recent ones, she was worried about her, in-laws and too many people showing up at her house. And I'm like, say no to me. And I'm just working through that place of power that we can just say no. We don't have to make apologies. We don't have to make excuses. We don't have to make reasons. We can just say no. No. Can I get you on your back? No. And it's okay. And so if you find saying no is bringing up emotions and hesitation and resistance and tension in your body, there's some underlying things below that are needing to be addressed. How we can work at helping you to feel more confident and more in control, that you can just say no. And with my work as a doula and being your Body Talk birth support, I'm there to help you through that process the whole way through. So one of the big things in number 2 of preparing your body is that our body holds our stuff. As a yoga teacher, I would have people spontaneously start laughing or crying when we get into big hip openers or hamstring stretches, that our body holds our experiences and it gets held and caught up in the fascial tissue or ligaments or muscles. And it creates restrictions in our body that can make it impossible for baby to get positioned the way they need to be. And that enhancing fetal positioning begins in very early pregnancy through proper posture, avoiding repetitive movements, and working through releasing muscular imbalances and the holdings within the body. And I've had clients, and one of my clients could barely get her hands past her knees, can never touch her toes. And we found the trauma and the experiences held into her low back and hamstrings and released it. And she can now touch her toes. One session, we got her, massively huge increases, and we found other stuff with her, and we were able to really change her level of flexibility and range of motion in her body because we got through the stuff that was held there. So self-care number 2 is one of our primary tools in Body Talk, the cortices technique. And this is a way of integrating the head, the heart, and the gut brains. That our head is telling us to do one thing, and our heart is saying something different, or our gut is saying something different, and we're torn in 2 or 3 different directions. We don't make very good progress. Cortices is a way of getting the brain out of stress mode, out of a state of shock, so that it can function properly and communicate properly with the rest of the body. But also it's really functioning on bridging the left and right hemispheres of the brain, making sure that we have good communication between those two, that we can be in our logic, but also integrated with our emotions and not just all rational or all emotional. And it really helps to bring the body out of a state of shock and to help it to heal itself. And so we use this anytime a kid is injured in our house. I use it every single morning. If you can partner things up with something else in your life, it's easier to make it a habit. And so whenever I sit down on the toilet first thing in the morning, I tap my cortices technique. So cortices is bridging an electromagnetic field between your hand and your brain to create and wire up that brain and get it to activate. So our hand creates an electromagnetic circuit, and we hold across the base of the skull to bridge that left and right hemisphere of the brain. And then we tap on the top of the head to take a breath in and out. And the heart and out. And the belly. And then we work systematically from the base of the skull to the top of the skull. So from where you are, just working one hand position higher. We just want to have that top hand open so that we're getting that whole left and right hemisphere of the brain. A breath as we tap to the heart and to the belly and just around the area of the navel since you can't see it. And then we just move to our next hand position. So we're just working systematically from the base of the skull to the front, tapping belly as well. And then we come to the next hand position for our breath. And the heart and the belly. Working yourselves right down to the forehead. So depending on your head to hand size, you may need one more position or you may need less. And then as we get to the base of this, from the base of the skull right down to the eyebrows, getting that prefrontal cortex in there, we come around to get that limbic brain, holding our palms to our temple, holding the sides of our head, and then we tap to the top of the head. And then through the 3 brains, and then we work and hold the other side and tap. Good. And so this helps to bring us out of stress, calm the nervous system down, move back into a parasympathetic rest and digest mode, helps the body to facilitate its own healing resources. And so it's a great tool to have in your toolbox. So number 3, position you to position baby. And so we already talked about how our holdings in our body will create restrictions that will impair baby's ability to get into their position. So Body Talk, we can release the holdings and let all that stuff go. Working through that priority system, and when your body's ready to release it, it will. But also we have great tools with chiropractic, osteopathic, massage therapy, particularly myofascial release, structural integration, rolfing primarily. Craniosacral therapy is really good as well, physio and yoga therapy. So I'm a yoga teacher as well, so we've got really good tools there. So your baby's position and rotation will follow your body balance. And so any clues that you need body balancing is any pain in your hips, your back, your pubic bone, your pelvis. If your baby's sitting breech or transverse or just flipping around all the time that they can't get into a good position, then that's an indication that there's some body balancing needed, that you got holdings, restrictions in there in the way. If you've had accidents, injuries, repetitive movements, or anything going on that's unique with your uterus, like fibroids, then more work will be done. And with BiTalk, we can help to work and address fibroids and other things. I actually had to energetically realign my uterus in relation to my brain one time in a BiTalk training. It was my head in relation to my uterus. I did end up with a full-blown uterine prolapse, and I was able to put it back in place quickly with BiTalk and yoga. That's a fun story. So I've been able to repair my prolapses in myself with the BiTalk quite quickly. So anything that's going on, we can actually reposition things with BiTalk. It's pretty cool. But as we're talking about getting you positioned properly, one of the main things is what they refer to with spinning babies is the flashlight test. That if you had a flashlight sticking out of your navel, that it should be parallel to the ground or lower, that you're not leaning yourself back and letting that flashlight point up to the sky, that we're able to keep it parallel, or we're leaning forward so that it points to the ground. And so if we're going to sit on a ball, that the hips should be higher than the knees, but there's also benefit to sitting in a low squat as well. But we're making sure that we're up on the sit bones, keeping that pelvis stacked and upright, that our ribs are stacked in line with our pelvis. They talk about the mermaid tail, that if you're getting like in and out of the car in particular, that you keep your knees together and that you move your legs together in one unit, like you're a mermaid. And that from sitting up from side lying and not engaging your core to sit yourself up, as that core starts to get extended with the stretching of the baby, that we should roll from our side and use our hands to sit us up. Ideally squatting and calf stretching and hip opening, which makes prenatal yoga awesome. And within my packages, I set you up with a customized body routine, self-care routine that's going to make sure your body's getting balanced in the particular way it needs to be, to make sure your body and baby are ready for birth, and any other meditation or self-care tools that are needed. We'll come into that as well. So baby's journey out, they know what positioning to be, they know how they need to rotate, and their failure to get into proper positioning can be communication of their fears or their resistance to coming into the world, or could be simply indicating that there's some issues with your alignment. When I work with babies that they come to me because they're overdue and baby's not coming, usually they have some fears. Often it's not wanting to dethrone their older sibling, or they know their soul's journey. They know what they're here to do on this earth, and they're afraid of how big and how hard it is for them. And we help them get into alignment mentally and emotionally and ready and excited for birth. And then they come easily and quickly. BiTalk births tend to be a lot faster. I've had some babies born in the driveway, but and quicker. So with that one, I actually want to give you Jace's story. So a client of mine has had a large family. This was her 12th birth. And we talked about maybe even having a home birth because her births were really fast as it was, and that her birth with BiTalk would be faster. And she was an hour or so out of the city. But her husband wasn't on board with the whole home birthing thing. So they decided they were going to go, but baby still wasn't sure what the plan was, and she went a little bit overdue. And so I went with the no induction guarantee and checked in with her at 41. Yeah, she was 41 weeks exactly. And baby said simply, "Go in and I will come." He didn't want to be born on the side of the road or anything that was going to be weird or scary for them. And so the mama asks, it's like, "I have an appointment tomorrow. Should I move it up?" I'm like, "Yes." So they came in and her and her husband had a lovely lunch together. They went into the hospital and they got checked. And she was 5 centimeters with bulging membranes. And they're like, "You're well on your way to having this baby." So she just went out for a walk. She was checked into assessment. and walked until she felt there was some pressure and something felt different. And her intuition told her that she needed to go back up. So they come back to assessment, they check her, but she's still 5 centimeters, and they leave. And then moments later, her water breaks, her contraction kicks in, and it was about, I think she said, only 2 or 3 contractions, and her husband is catching the baby. She went in, and he came. So that's one of my, I got to see him this week. He's an amazing little guy. So yeah, one of our very fast birth stories, and how baby can communicate with us and tell us that. And so, but baby's positioning. Where's baby's more important than, how many centimeters dilated you are, as their position influences your labor progression. And the better engaged the head or buttocks are, as a breech birth can be a variation of normal, but I also find it can be communication of other things. And I can talk more about that on another day. The more efficient our dilation or effacement will be, better they're engaged. And so if baby's extended into an extended position rather than flexed with their chin tucked, getting that small back part of their head engaged, it's going to be stressful and more painful, and you're going to end up with a sunny side up posterior baby in most of those positions. So if you have a sunny side up, a posterior baby, successful vaginal delivery is only 17.4%. And from a study from obstetrics gynecology, versus 76%, 76.2% if you have a baby positioned in occiput anterior, meaning spine to the front of your belly, making fetal positioning very critical for your birthing success. So that head down is not enough if your baby's on the left or on the right. And so we have all our little anterior posterior presentations here. So you can see that this one here with their spine to the front of your belly, this is our ideal anterior position. This one here where they're spine to spine with you, that one is our posterior sunny side up position. And their head is flat down, versus the baby that's anterior has their chin tucked and they have that smallest part of their head coming down. So left versus right makes a difference. And if they're anterior or posterior, forwards or backwards, of course, we don't want them sideways. We don't need them transverse. And so here's our different positionings: right occiput posterior, left occiput posterior, and then our anteriors here in the bottom. So one thing is, a large portion of the population, they don't really know for sure, they thought about like 85 or more percent actually has their uterus higher on the right, making it steeper, and the left is lower, making it more curved. And this asymmetric anatomy will greatly affect positioning. And I think it's because, well, they just need more room for the descending colon, and just the way, our organs work, our uterus kind of adapts to give our organs more space. And so at the start of labor, it's ideally to have baby left occiput and transverse, basically sideways at the curve of the uterus. And so that you'll feel their bum on the left side of your belly. You'll feel most of the kicks on their right side, as that more curved side of the belly helps them to get their chin tucked. Because if they're on the right side, then they end up very vertical, and they're going to end up getting into a flexed position and typically rotating to posterior sunny side up if they can't get through any other way. So we want them on that, always on the left, ideally. And so if we can look here with the vertex, the military, the brow presentation, or the face presentation. One of my nieces came out face presentation, and I did body talk on her, and she told me she wanted some help with positioning, and my sister-in-law goes, no, she's head down good enough, and didn't want to do forward leaning version, didn't want to do anything that I suggested. I'm like, okay. And she came out face presentation, posterior. So, yeah, that was a fun I told you so there. I never gave an I told you so on, but yeah, you know how your family never likes to listen to you. So, chin tucked. easier. These are easier positions. So we really want to make sure baby's where they need to be. And I work with baby to get there. And usually they just tell us that they need some help getting into position. And we use our spinning baby tools and our yoga positionings to help them go where they need to go. And they cooperate and they go most of the time. And if they don't, there's usually another story or another reason why they don't. And so if they are wanting to rotate in the posterior, they can go around to right occiput anterior to come out, but often they'll come out just occiput to posterior, which is usually a brow or face presentation. So it's like putting a button through a buttonhole. First, you kind of want them sideways to get in because it's kind of oval, and then we want to rotate it to pull it through and to pull it right out through so that it comes through. So if you can see here that the pelvic inlet, to get them in, the widest is side to side. So we kind of want their head sideways to drop into that buttonhole. And then the widest space is diagonal. So we need them to rotate into a left occiput anterior primarily. And then we want them to descend into occiput anterior to come out. And then they rotate again to get their shoulders through as well. And so we talk about the different stations and where their head is at the level of the pubic symphysis. But yeah. And then, of course, we got our breech babies and our transverse sideways babies. I had one client in my prenatal yoga classes whose every woman has always had a transverse baby, and they've always had to have C-sections. And she didn't believe she could get her baby to turn. And my ego was, hey, you don't have to pay me. I just need to see if I can get your baby to turn. And we just did a little mini session after the end of class. She goes in, gets checked, baby's head down, no C-section. She's able to go into labor naturally, but we didn't do any work in her beliefs that she couldn't birth her baby. And she did no preparation in thinking that she was going to birth her baby. And so in the end, she did end up with an emergency C-section, but at least she was able to initiate labor naturally and get all those good hormones and prove herself wrong that it was possible to get her baby head down. All right, self-care number 3, the throwdown and shaking. So animals, when we get into stress mode, a deer gets chased down or shot at, and it'll find a place of safety, and then it'll just shake everything off. And so shaking is one of our natural ways of bringing our body back out of stress mode. And when we get angry, when we get pissed off, when we're just holding a lot of emotions and a lot of experiences, we can just take what we have and we just grab it up over our head and we can just throw it down. We can scream, we can grunt, we can just and it just makes us feel so much better. But then shaking, we just shake out the arms, and if we can actually just kind of thump into our heels, if you think of a powwow, and we can just shake it all out. You can turn it into a dance. If you can reverberate that tension into our heels and kind of pound it into our bones, it can really help to bring the body out of stress mode. So that shaking is a really good way. And during transition and labor, your body will naturally want to kind of shiver and shake with those floods of hormones. And so it's one of our body's best ways of coping with stress is to just shake it out. And so with spinning babies, we also have the jiggle, and it's just gently putting your hand on and just doing a jiggle anywhere. And it just works with that fascial layer, very gentle, very easy to release that stress, that tension. So there's lots of different ways we can shake and jiggle, and it's a very, very great tool. All right. So work through your previous birth. And number 4, release your fears and limiting beliefs. So VBAC allows us to do both of this. And so for the pregnant person, it really helps you to address anything that's physically going on. I've been able to deal with all the carpal tunnel and hip pain, back pain, morning sickness. You name it, VBAC can help you. It really helps you to move into that parasympathetic rest, digest, relax session and really bring you out of stress. VBAC is known first and foremost as a method of stress reduction. And we can work at releasing the fears around birth, our limiting beliefs about your own ability to birth and your own ability to parent, anything that's holding you up, our different paradigms, our different constructs that we've created are all able to be shifted. We've got neuroplasticity. We can rewire all this stuff. We can break free of our generational parenting patterns and how we find that we end up acting just like our parents, even if we don't want to, or we've got trauma or other things that are being passed down. We can break away from that and even work with disconnecting genetics within the family. I'll talk about more of that with baby. And anything that triggers you, anything buttons that you get pushed, any emotional reactivity is our old emotions, our old stuff, our old baggage asking to be healed. It's showing up for a reason so that it can be released. So we can work through all those things as well. And as we get rid of the reactivity, we're able to be more response-able and less reactive. And it's stress reduction. So any stress around work, money, your relationships, anything that's going on, we can help you. And if you have any pre-existing issues physically, but also depression, anxiety, we can work with that prior so it doesn't show up in your postpartum. And so for the birth, we get better communication between you and baby. We can release the old holdings within the body. And so that you get better positioning, work with the fears, your own birth into the world, any generational or karmic factors that are showing up that could be affecting your ability to birth. And really getting that good mindset and excitement for birth. The families I work with, we're ready and excited for birth. That the fear and the limitations are gone, and we move into birth with a place of excitement, and it makes all the difference. Shorter labors are typical. Reduced pain is a possibility, even ecstatic and orgasmic births. And so I had my orgasmic birth prior to Body Talk, and my second birth was just so fast and intense. It was a little fireball. It was amazing, but it was just, it was a completely different experience. But I know they're possible, and we help. If that's what you want and you want an orgasmic birth on your birth plan, I will help you get it. And we do these special performance sessions that pre-rehearse the birth process. We work through any of the limitations, fears. They're a really neat little process. And with my no induction guarantee, natural induction for full-term babies, I find trying to convince babies to come before they're ready isn't the most successful, but with some help of, if they do need to come earlier, one of my babies was aluminized and was looking like they were going to need a blood transfusion. We were able to avoid all of that. And that baby, she was able to get her VBAC and everything worked out just great. Emily's IV stories on my website about her journey. But we were able to help the induction process with the ViTalk, even though we couldn't get her to go into labor on her own. And improved outcomes for vaginal birth. So with APA, how we're welcomed into the world matters and influences us for the rest of our lives. And we know hurt people. And if we can bring into a generation into the world that are seen, loved, connected, and not experiencing the trauma, and that we're able to disconnect all of the stuff for them, that they're able to be mentally and emotionally sound, and that healthy people help heal the world. And that the implications of those earliest experiences during our prenatal and our childbirth and postpartum really impact us. So the developmental origins of health and disease actually has got research on how our physical stress will create a wide range of outcomes in our babies, including neurodevelopmental and physical problems, anxiety, ADHD, lower cognition, disease, asthma. I have a blog on my website as well about how asthma is a bonding issue and all the research we have on that. And so by working with the stress in pregnancy and helping baby to cope with everything going on while they're in the womb, we can prevent a lot of this stuff and give them the best start. And so here you can just see how the maternal heart rate is mirrored by the fetal heart rate, and how the cortisol can cause DNA changes and transmit issues to baby. So I just threw this in here because when we're aware of the impacts adverse events has on our baby, we can work to repair them or hopefully prevent them and reduce the risk of diseases. So anything that is stressful in the mother's experience before conception, in both parents, in pregnancy, birth, up to age 3, is part of our ACEs here, or ABEs, our adverse babyhood experiences. And this was based off the ACEs study. And so if we know there's a problem, we can fix it. So any loss, grief, trauma at any time in mother's life. So if there was any trauma, it can be passed through. If there's not enough support, if there's emotional stress or illness in the mother, physical stress, symptoms or illness in the mother, any complications or interventions with the birth, if there's complications and interventions with the baby, any separation, be it emotional or physical, any birth weight concerns, breastfeeding concerns, symptoms in parents or babies, being unwanted, having difficult conception, all kinds of anything that's going on that's stressful will impact the development of your baby. And so we know the thing that supports our babies the best is to have a secure attachment relationship. And so when they're out of the womb, that's our responsive touch and care and attuned eye contact. It's essential for their very survival. We know babies in orphanages that aren't held will die because they need that touch. They need that attunement. It's essential. And so Dr. Raylene Phillips, the president of APA, she's a neonatologist and works with the NICU babies, and her research that they're doing on these NICU babies that are, 24 weeks gestation, 30 weeks gestation, that we're still in the womb that you are carrying outside in the world, and how talking to them, naming them, and engaging with them wire in the better pathways in their brain. And that's the same baby that's in your womb right now. And so we know those outcomes of connection and bonding with the baby are essential. We know babies that are read to and sung to have better outcomes. Too far. So bonding and connecting with babies. So one of my favorite tools is the belly breath. And so this is a very simple tool that allows us to stay connected with baby, to calm down the nervous system, connect in with ourselves. And we just close our eyes, we take a breath. And we imagine our bellies like a big balloon. As it is a balloon, we just want to expand it bigger. Inhaling to expand into the belly, into the pelvic floor, trying to get the pelvic floor to relax. Feeling it expand and open. And as we breathe into the belly, into the hips, creating that openness in the pelvis, we're bringing oxygen into baby to support them. We're bringing our awareness into baby, and we can say, "Hi, baby." Reassure them, send our love, connect with them. And I have a recording of a great little meditation to take this a little bit deeper, just a 3-minute journey with your baby. Whenever you're feeling stressed or disconnected, you can do. And I will send you. So, benefits for baby. We're able to talk to them and help you get to be more in tuned and integrated and understanding of what their needs are. I help you to find that attunement even more. We can help optimize their development and growth, healing any genetic predispositions. I have a kid I worked with that had epilepsy that was genetic. I worked at the generational level of her epilepsy. She stopped having seizures, but so did her little brother, who I didn't treat because I worked at the generational level. And so we can heal these genetic predispositions before they even take hold. We can disconnect from our generational or past life traumas, all of our karmic stuff. We can address our fears and limiting beliefs for the baby, and help them make sense of their place in the world. So if they're going up for adoption or they're a surrogate. They have an interesting place and an interesting way of being that they need to make sense of it. Or, if they're coming in hot off the heels off of another baby really close together and you're maybe a little bit ambivalent about the pregnancy at the beginning, or they maybe weren't sure you wanted them in the beginning, we can help to unravel all of that, because that was my story. I was an unwanted conception, and my mom resented being pregnant with me. I added more years to her sentence. And, once I did some hypnosis regression work, and once I was born into the world, I could feel her love. I could feel her connection. She tried the best she could, but she was not in an emotional and mental place to really love me. And I created all these impacts that I've been able to kind of reclaim with BiTalk, my own place in it. And I wish I wouldn't have had to wait. That was, how many years ago? Like 5, till I was like 35 or so. I carried all that with me, that I never should have existed, that I was never wanted, that I was an inconvenience to people. And I don't want that for babies. That's why I do this work. And helps them to communicate, just like my little one. You go in and I will come. I get messages from your baby. They will tell me. I had one baby who was a girl, and all the extended family was just praying for a boy, wanting a boy. And I'm like, I know you didn't want to find out gender, but you need to know you're having a girl, and she needs you to advocate for them, or, just remind people like, hey, maybe it could be a girl, and I'd be happy with a girl. That was my very first hospital birth, was that little girl. Improved bonding in utero, so we're able to connect with and know baby in a way unlike any other, and that is always 100% across the board. Anyone I work with throughout their pregnancy is how much better they're able to know their baby and connect with their baby and be bonded with their baby, and that they're ready to go when time's right. And we support them with their positioning. And so once they come into the world, we can debrief the birth and release the birth experience. And colic doesn't exist, but I've worked with babies, babies will come to me at 3 weeks that don't stop crying, and we're able to get to the root cause of why that is and resolve it for them quickly and efficiently. Easier, more content babies, better success in breastfeeding. I help to support them through their developmental leaps, so they get through them easier and quicker, and you end up with less sleepless nights. I had one baby who at 3 months hadn't rolled over yet. Or no, she was 6 months and hadn't rolled over yet, and was really behind on her milestones. And so we did the session for her, and that night I get a video of her rolling over. And I did another session a week or 2 later, and I get a video of her crawling, and we were able to get her all caught up. And she still ends up lagging behind, and I still work with her regularly. But she's all caught up, and everything is good now. Reduction of separation anxiety. And calm, confident, adaptable caregivers. With this work, I help you to be ready to be the parent that they need. And that makes their life easy and makes them feel safe, and they don't have to stress out. And so for the postpartum period, we can help you recover, debrief the birth, any resolution of trauma that's needed. Again, bonding, reduce your stress, anxiety, your confidence and intuition, help with breastfeeding, any aversions to touch or postpartum depression or anxiety. We're able to work through all of that. And I have seen that in some clients, and we've been able to work through it pretty quickly. And coping with this journey following baby, if it's separation or just that transition into motherhood, that can be a big shock. Benefits for the family, we're able to help kind of connect with the baby before arrival. I really love working with older siblings so that they don't feel so dethroned, and we can kind of reduce behavior and sleep problems, potty regressions, them being pissed off and resentful. They will often have potty regressions, and we can reduce that. And just work with all the interpersonal dynamics, help your partner be ready for birth, all the generational stuff again, and so on. So you're asking by now, what is BiTalk? So BiTalk is a holistic healthcare system that is about creating communication within the body, that every cell, every system is in constant communication with each other. But sometimes that communication gets disrupted. So we got holdings and emotions and stuff that gets in the way, and stress gets in our way. We get disconnected from our head brain, our heart brain, our gut brain, and we get torn in all these different directions, and we're not able to have that communication. We don't listen to our intuition. We don't listen to our gut brain. We don't listen to the communications from our body when they're subtle whispers, and then it has to scream at us with really big symptoms to get our attention. So it's whole health care, and each practitioner will work with you differently, just like every massage therapist is going to work with you differently. And every part of our body has its own story that influences your health. So Body Talk is consciousness-based medicine, the state of being awake and aware of our surroundings. But it's our ability to be the fact that we're aware of the mind itself and the world. It's like, who am I? Well, I'm this awareness asking, who am I? And so we say with Body Talk, all that is needed for healing is consciousness. So this should be my iceberg. Yep. And so we have that conscious mind at the surface and everything else in the subconscious below the surface. And so by talk, we actually ask a series of yes, no questions at the subconscious, unconscious level to reveal it to us at the conscious mind. And once your conscious mind goes, oh, this is what's going on. Okay, I can fix this. Because our bodies are amazing. We came from one sperm, one egg. We became this little zygote that multiplied, and that this cell knew it was a muscle cell, and this cell knew it was a blood cell, and this cell knew it was a bone cell. And that our body's intelligence to grow itself and to heal itself is there. Sometimes we just get some miscommunication and we need to help that. And so Vaitaki is not like Reiki. We're not sending energy in. We're not manipulating any way. We're just helping to create communication. And we're just bringing things to conscious awareness so your ability to heal itself can kick in. I am just the translator of the communication of your body. Battery low. Sorry, my battery's going dead. Plug in. So Body Talk addresses it all. We have our physical, our emotional, our psychological, all of our stress, everything that is going on can be addressed with Body Talk. So it was first and foremost created as a method of spiritual work to know back who we are at our core, our truth, our stuff. And when we're in balance with our physical, our mental, emotional self, then the physical self is in alignment as well. There we go. That's the power. All right. So it's left brain knowledge plus right brain intuition equals structured intuition. And so, if you see behind me, I have this protocol chart right here, kind of cut in half so it fits. And we ask these yes-no questions up and down this chart, including other modalities where we can bring in my fetal positioning tools and all of our other different things. And we can map out a picture of what your subconscious wants you to know so that you can heal yourself the most effectively. And it's really neat. So get ready to experience a session. So Body Talk, if you're here, you'd be laying on my treatment table and you get to be nice and comfy. I got pregnancy pillows, the big C-shaped body pillow. We get you nice and comfy and cozy, and you just get to relax and move into an alpha state, a altered state of consciousness. And we close our eyes, we get grounded into the present moment, we tune in and listen into the sensations, the sounds, the intuitions that arise within your body and from your baby. There's nothing that needs to be done, you just receive. You're always welcome to ask questions and give insights. But for the most part, we just listen to the stories your body has to say. You may notice your belly growls and gurgles. That's moving into that parasympathetic rest and digest mode. And it's your body communicating that's actually digesting and releasing the old emotions and experiences that need to happen. Sometimes we burp or yawn. I yawn a lot when I'm doing distance work as a part of how we to shift the energy of the things that are stuck. So, as we tune into a session for whoever is viewing this today and in the recording in the future, we first of all check if there's any permissions, needing to shift your paradigms, shift your mindsets, give yourself permission to move on. No permissions today. It's taking us into pathological consciousness, which is our state of being out of alignment with something. And it's taking us into looking at the consciousness of the pancreas. And the pancreas is about worrying and adaptability. And so we have this pathological state of being unadaptable, of not being able to adapt quick enough, fast enough, being stuck in one mindset, one way, and not being able to be adaptable. And how this relates into a cellular repair. So this is helping the body to recognize that repair needs to happen within the system. And sometimes it's physiological that we actually need to go in and repair, the uterus after the C-section, or that we need to repair damage that's been done in the body. But often it's working at the psycho-emotional level. So we're working at repairing. Oh, we're actually going to work at repairing your uterus. So from the previous C-section. So this would hopefully be helping to make sure that it is ready, it is strong, it is capable of moving into that active labor and getting the job done for you, to contract effectively, to push that baby down, to dilate, to efface, to birth your baby. And as we do these cellular repairs, sometimes it wants more information that we need to create better communication. And so just like baking a cake, if you just have a list of ingredients and you don't have measurements or instructions, it's going to be really hard to make something that really works well. And so the more details we have, the more effective we are. And so I'm just a translator. We just give your mind, body, consciousness the information it needs, and it goes to work to do what it needs to do. In this case, it doesn't want any specific details. It could take us right down to the mitochondria of the cells if we needed to. But in this case, it just wants to do a straight up cellular repair of the uterus. And there's something else. We have that pathological consciousness of inadaptability, how it relates to this repair of the uterus. And then there's another piece. It's taking us to circulation nerve supply, the circulation of nerves to, from, or within endocrine. The pineal. Interesting. Pineal represents our drive, our masculine drive for self-betterment, the regulation of our cycles, our connection to spirituality. And so it helps us to get into those altered states of consciousness that are necessary for birthing, that we have to get out of our rational brain. We need to get into our alpha theta states in order to birth. And our pineal is what gets us there. And so you want to work with the circulation of the nerve communication within it. Neat. And this relates into another piece. Your primary feminine matrix. So this is the primary mask, operating system, belief system you've created about yourself in being a woman, and what it means to be a woman in this body, in this lifetime. And we both have a balance of masculine and feminine, but as women, our feminine should be stronger. And we need to be tapped into that. And we want to repair a piece that feeds into it. So we look at these little operating systems, these masks, these personas that we put on, like little octopuses, that they're fed by all these different pieces. And the primary matrix has all the different pieces plus the five senses. And we're working with the sense of touch, the subtle sense of touch. And that's our felt sense, our knowingness. So we really want to tap into that feminine intuition, that felt sense, that knowingness, and helping you to get more in tune with what's going on with yourself and with baby. Really cool. For the details, no more links to anything else. We're going to implement it. And so now that we mapped out what we do our tapping again. This creates these solitons, these spike waves. So if you think of tapping your fingers in a puddle and that ripple effect, anything that's stuck, but it creates this activation of our brain to light up, to go to work saying, hey, we're going to repair that uterus. We're going to get that circulation to the pineal, and we're going to really help you tap into your feminine, intuitive, instinctual stuff so that you are ready and created and capable of getting this birth done. So we tap on the head for a few breaths. Our cellular repair actually has a deeper, more complex series of hand positions that's not coming up as a priority for us to do it right now. Oh, actually, we do want to do it. So we would have you hold your masseter muscles, your jaw muscles. And I would hold this one position on your head, and we take a breath in, breath out. And I do it for you here for these distance sessions. You don't physically need to be doing anything. I can do it here as a surrogate for you. And once we do that, I get you to move your hands to hold that temple position, that last piece of cortices, as we hold the two positions on the head again and integrate it through the three brains. And then we check if there's any more information that's needed. No. So sometimes it would take us into bringing up more information, more links between this and that need to be communicating. But then we finish off with connecting the pineal and the pituitary, which is about balancing that masculine, that feminine. But if there is to be life, there is to be wellness, that we have both that light and dark side, the yin and the yang, that duality of nature. And for the by talk, no, for our little demo, that is it. And so usually our sessions are I do prenatal sessions for 90 minutes, and that gives us enough time to work through everything we need to work through for you and for baby, and usually gives us a little bit of time to check in. If you have a toddler or older sibling that's needing to adapt, we can usually throw a little bit of work in for them as well. And we can get into their little subconsciouses and find out what's going on within them. It's a lot of fun. I remember when I first learned by talk, my friend was babysitting my toddler, and it took me to the event of her house and to the basement suite and to the emotion of excitement and then of anger. And then I asked her, like, it was a day or two after that this came up, and I'm like, did he get down into the basement suite? And she's like, yeah, and I was a little harsh on him. So it rats my children out when they do things, because their subconscious tells me that he needed a little bit of help processing that experience, because he's not supposed to be in the tenant suite, right? So yeah, fun stuff. And so here is a review of my package where we do all the by talk, we all do the yoga, I do the sleep education class, and just all the education to really help her be connected with baby. And I worked with her through her birth. It was an amazing process. She ended up with a little bit of touch aversion we were able to help work through, and she had some anxiety stuff we were able to help her work through. And he is such an easy, awesome little guy who's now, was he? Yeah, he was one of my COVID babies. He's almost 3. So in my package, we do Why Talk with You monthly. We do these special performance sessions to prepare you for birth. We give you a self-care plan to make sure your body's balanced. We do birth prep education. I teach you the acupressure, your partner, some tools and skills to help you through. We find out what it is you want out of your birth and prepare for your birth. We do some postpartum planning. We do the infant sleep class to help you really get set up for preparing for that. We give you a session for your partner or for the family as a whole. I can work with you through your labor and birth, either virtually or in person if you're local. And if you're not local, I have a more advanced package where I work with you bi-weekly and I come for your on-call period, the red carpet treatment with that package. And so I can come to you, but that's the big all-in package. But I have done births in Guam and Singapore and New Zealand and across Canada and where else? Virtually. So, but also have the option to not have me on call, and that's your more price effective option. And we do 3 postpartum body talk sessions. I do a recovery session within 48 hours of the birth. We do a full debrief session within 2 weeks of the birth, and then another one to get you on your way, usually about 6 weeks. Half price off any additional sessions that are needed for your toddlers or other kids, your partners, deeper stuff going on that you need more help with that goes beyond the monthly sessions. We can do more sessions at half price. You get the no medical induction, no colic guarantees. I have this huge resource library in Google Drive I share with you, all kinds of infant sleep and resources on all the evidence-based birth resources, and I'm able to help you with any of that. We are starting up weekly group support calls, just open office time to talk about anything and everything and create some community. And we have a WhatsApp chat where we can all kind of just get together and get support as well, as I find Facebook is losing its appeal. And Kay here, she had just lost her grandmother and was grieving, and we really wanted to help her to really get out of that grief and get attuned with her baby. And we were able to help her get a great birth experience and a smooth transition into postpartum, and a really great journey for her first baby. And Megan was a free birth. We did just a bit of birth prep. I came into her world towards the end. I was able to just help her out through the birth, give her that support, clean up her placenta, get it all, and clean up everything, and just let her be with her baby. And we had a really great journey with her. And yeah, Janelle, it was her baby that was the girl that needed to be supported to be a girl in this world. And we had some very powerful experiences for her. So just a few of my testimonials. And then I also work with conscious parenting, and I've taken 2 trainings with Dr. Shafali, and that we recognize that anything that our children are triggering in us is because we have wounds we haven't healed, and that we need to continually work on ourselves. Okay, so that is our VBAC Prep Masterclass. And moving forward, you find me at consciousbirth.ca, and you can find all the information on the packages there. And feel free to book in for a free call to have some one-on-one work and to get all your questions answered. And always the way we start is just with an initial BiTalk session, just for you to experience it, work on your own personal stuff, and then we always go from there. So yeah, book in for a 90-minute prenatal session in whatever format fits you, online or in person. And that's how we move on from there. But don't hesitate to reach out. I'm always here and available. And I am excited to help you and your babies get the most amazing birth, pregnancy, and postpartum experience possible. You and your baby deserve a conscious birth. Have a good night.